focus on setting intention. When we set an intention, it gives us more power to carry forward. Once you've set that intention, it's all about creating the space, of course. And creating the space has you doing whatever you choose to do to create that space for your client or your class, or even creating space for yourself if you're recording something to post online. Then the formal part of the script begins, of course, with the induction, the beginning of the script. And that first part of the script is where we bring the client into the present. We guide them to that place where we choose to say, if you would like to close your eyes, go ahead and close your eyes, or whatever it is you do at the beginning. And we get into that space of relaxation. The induction part of it is that place where we're not being directed. We're not giving orders. We're more like using permissive language, like imagery, like imagine this, or think about how this feels, or feel the flow of your breath. Not in a commanding way, but in a suggestive way. Because there are a lot of people who are going to resist those commands, those things that sound like orders. You want it to sound like more suggestion, right? Um, Opportunities. And then we want it to be very imaginative. We want it to be very progressive. And we want it to use different relaxation techniques. That's where we start in the beginning. Secondly, the theme is we get into that place where we provide those suggestions and we connect to the reason why we're doing it. And that reason might be therapeutic or it might be non-therapeutic. It might be relaxation or it might be energetic. It might be connecting to the body or it might be connecting to some place in their imagination. In that space, you're guiding them where you want to take them. That place where we're almost getting into that space where we're relaxing, we've relaxed them down and connected them to the present. And then we add in the imagery or the body scan or whatever it is we're doing in that space. We use sometimes direct suggestions and sometimes non-direct suggestions. We use metaphors or we use imagery, whatever you choose to do. And then we finish back, of course, by bringing the client back into the present, back into the place of awareness. Not that they weren't present all along, but if you have them going on a journey on a beach somewhere, you don't want to just come to the end and say, now open your eyes. You want to bring them back to connect with their body and the space that they're in, to make it very fluid and make it very suggestive to start in one place, go on a journey, and come back to that same place. Not that they're the same when they come back, but they're back in the same place. So the journey of a meditation is very much like a journey of a sound meditation or a yoga nidra. You're relaxing them down, you're taking them that place you want them to go, and then you're bringing them back. And it depends on the type of a meditation you're doing, where you're taking them to. Sometimes you take them deeper down than others, but it's all about connecting to that place and that space that you want them to be. So always remember though, words matter. Whatever words you say to a client who is in a present state, trust me, people are listening to every word that you hear. And for people, they're going to hear the words and be influenced by them. We're going to spend a lot of time building a lot of trust, a lot of connection, a lot of rapport with our clients. So with that trust comes quite a bit of responsibility. So we have to always understand that the words we use are more powerful than we even notice, especially when somebody's in a, not a trance, but in a suggestive state. And the power of our language has a huge impact on the energy that we're contributing to the meditation, to the surroundings, and to the quality of the interaction that we're using for this relationship. And every time we're working with a client, whether it's one-on-one or with a group, it is a relationship. We're building a relationship, and the deeper we can build that relationship of trust, of acceptance, of openness, the more useful these practices are going to be. So when leading meditation, it's most important to remember our words have so much meaning, especially when our clients are heavily focused on them. So the script, the meditation, the way we're leading it should flow in a common language without overcomplicating things. And it should go in a system of flowing nice and easy, flowing with your breath. And I'm going to tell you some tools that we can use to do that. But always remember, simplicity is key if you want the mind to stay focused. If you throw in a word like, I don't know, equanimity, If you say equanimity in the middle of a meditation, not everybody is learned in that word. And so it's going to throw their mind into that place of what does that even mean, or what should I be feeling, or what it is. And that's moving them out of that space. It disrupts the flow. So our words should be simple and concise and focused. And every word contains a special frequency by the way we put it out there. And the words we use act like signals that can trigger something. It can trigger emotion, it can trigger a reaction, or it can trigger a relaxation, or it can trigger a letting go. So we use our words as triggers. And I know the word trigger itself has gotten kind of a bad rap these days, but triggering our clients to go into the place where we intend them to go is what this is all about, whether it's triggered or leading or whatever it is you want to call it. Back not too long ago, we could say the word triggered without having some political feeling, but um, what carries even more power than the words we speak, though, is how we use them, how we phrase them, how they come out of our mouth. So if they're coming out in a very relaxed and fluid way, they're going to be received that way. If they're coming out in a very quick and loud and fast way, they're going to be received that way. And it makes a huge difference. So writing a script is not just words on a paper. It's figuring out how you're going to put your pauses in there. It's figuring out how you're going to flow. And the flow should go with the flow of the breath, and that's what's most important. So that's what's so important. So make no doubt, the intention and the energy that we bring to each and every session is going to be conveyed through the words that we say. So I could take the same script and read it 5 different ways, 5 different days, and it's going to be received 5 different ways. Because each and every day we're coming from a different place. Each and every day our energy is different. So it's interesting to say, as you go out into the world and you start leading more and more and more meditations, when I first started, I challenged myself to always come up with a different meditations every time I did it, because I figured people would get bored if I did the same meditation over and over again. But then that's not so true. After I started testing it and going back and pulling out some older ones, I realized people don't really remember them, first off, and secondly, they're in a different space. And the way I put them out is different every time I do it. Because when I write a script, it's there for my inspiration. I don't sit there and read it word for word. So it's important to remember that. Allowing yourself to be connected with the intention and to focus on what the key is the successful way to lead meditation. All about the intention. So that's where we start, right here. The energy of our words. The space of meditation is the space to communicate with the self. So we're simply the guides. We are guiding our clients into that space where they're listening internally. They're hearing the words that I'm saying, but they're paying attention to their reactions, their emotions, the way they make them feel. That's why it's encouraged for people to close their eyes. Now, we all know that some people aren't comfortable closing their eyes. So if a client's not closing their eyes, or you're working with a group of people who aren't comfortable closing their eyes, then you just do some suggestion like find a soft spot on the floor and soften your gaze. And that's perfectly fine. There are some people who won't close their eyes at all, and that's fine. It's their meditation. But there's a beautiful thing when a person closes their eyes, is it almost turns their attention inward, where they're hearing the words that are saying, but they're paying more attention to themselves. So when practicing meditation, we're leading our clients, we're leading ourselves into a place where we transcend the ordinary thinking patterns. The conventional mind turns into more of a reflective mind, and we're able to access higher levels of awareness. It becomes automatic after a while, but when we first start out, there will be some resistance to that. Some people resist it, but we want to keep guiding there. Our job is to help those who are with us to reach that place, to reach a higher state of awareness, a higher state of presence. And we're going to use these practices to guide them to that place and to open up that space within. In meditation, the mind becomes so receptive to a surprising amount of energy, right? Because when we close our eyes, we can still hear everything, We can still sense everything going on around us, but with practice, we're building a deeper connection to that energetic field that allows us to see without seeing. And so in meditation, when it's given the chance, that inner sight, that insight grows, that inner vision. And this energy can usually be felt through the body, just like in a guided sound meditation. When people can feel the vibration of the bowls or the gong or whatever it is you're using, people can feel the vibration of your words and the vibration of your heart and the energy that you're putting out. So when we're able to reach that place and guide our clients to that deep state of reflection, we've opened the mind to the reality of the moment that we are in or to the journey that we're on. So if we're leading a client to a place where they're imagining walking through a forest, they can feel the energy of that place just by using the power of the mind that is connected to the power of your words. But know that each and every person is seeing or discovering something different, because you might be describing this forest, but you don't want to over describe it because you want the client to see it in their own way. And that's important. Leaving that space for them to fill in the blanks. And we'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. So instead of allowing the demands of our ordinary thought process to steal all of our energy, which it does, the person receiving a meditation has the opportunity to connect with the power that they have to choose what they thought, what they feel inside, with the energy that they have flowing through them. That's the power that we have to connect to that space of being, of being present. So it's so important when we lead meditations, we need to focus on these sessions being positive, to be filled with positive affirmations, to be filled with the power of the mind, to be filled with the power of clarity. So we want to focus this way. And this positive focus brings a true alignment to the law of attraction, to the power of manifestation, to the gifts that we have to choose how we're going to move forward through our life. That's what this is all about, getting into that space of power. We want to open ourselves up to be. In that meditation space, we create, helps us sweep away the distractions and clear the space. We move past the past and we don't focus on the future. We allow ourselves to get into the present and understand that there's an abundance of possibility when we come into that space of being present. So with that in mind, we want to open ourselves up and see that we are on a journey, but it starts right here by being sincere. Meditation provides the ideal conditions for our intentions to manifest, but we need to clear that space. We need to open the mind and we need to see the possibilities are there. And that's where our practice really comes in, focusing on the sincerity. So before you begin to start the process of writing a meditation or discovering how you want to lay out a meditation, whether you write them or you just want to plant the seeds in your mind of how you're going to go forward with them, take a moment and consider the purpose of it. What is the purpose of this meditation? And so say, for instance, you're scheduled to do a relaxation session with somebody. Well, that's the purpose, right? The purpose is to be relaxing. So you want to get yourself in that mindset of relaxation. Or maybe you're doing a chakra energy meditation and you want to balance the chakras, or maybe you're focused on one in particular. Or maybe it's a morning motivational meditation and you want to feel the power of energy and the power of discovery. So whatever that is, we have to be sincere to that by connecting to it to make sure we're in the right state of mind, in the right place of energy, so that we focus and understand that when we put ourselves in that right mindset, then we can dwell on the potential that we have to heal or inspire or bring up whatever it is we choose to bring up. And with this in mind, we want to make sure our intention is firm, that this is what we want to do. This is where we want to go. So as a teacher, always remember, you have such power. You have such power to inspire, to create, to help people manifest what it is they want in their life. And with that power, we should be present in that from the moment we start this power of creation, the creation process of a meditation. So it's that energy. And as much energy as we put out, that energy is going to be received. So focus on sincerity and focus on being authentic. And if it doesn't ring true to your heart, don't do it. Don't fake it. But if it's something that you want to practice getting better and better at it, then practice it. Then that is inspirational itself. So the simple fact is we fill our work with our passion. And when we connect that passion to the words that we say, it has such great meaning and it can be so powerful. So always begin by getting in the right frame of mind. If you're writing a script or you're leading a meditation, make sure you get in the right frame of mind. If you're going to write with a pen or paper, make sure you have enough to continue on. If you're going to type on a computer, make sure you're set up to type. But hold space for yourself for a moment and clear your mind before you begin. Make sure you're holding space for yourself. I find if I'm more relaxed, I'm going to lead myself into a better place where I can visualize what I'm writing about, and then I can be inspired to write and immerse myself visually and emotionally in the script. And it's going to be a better script because I'm leading from that place of knowledge, that place of understanding. So that's where we begin, by getting into the space we want to be in, by focusing on where we want to be. Don't try too hard to fit into a certain style at first. Just open yourself up to go with the flow of your script, to go with the flow of your mind. And if you have time, slow down and relax and settle down into the space that you're in before you begin again. So I just want to move right there for a moment. Everybody all right?
Yes.
Okay, good. I keep hitting this button that says ask to unmute, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to do that. I'm trying to click the slide and it keeps hitting the wrong button. I don't know, it's my mouse is a little off. So here we are. So I want you to ask yourself, when you're sitting there for a moment, what do you think you're bringing to this process? It's always something that we should reflect on, is what am I bringing? What am I bringing to this meditation? What am I bringing to my client? And get ourselves in the right framework where we embody the practice, where we fulfill that practice and we're not faking it. This training that you're going through is a vehicle that's going to help you awaken that passion within. And as we move forward in this session, I want you to focus on the power that you have to inspire others through your words, whether it's writing a script or leading a session. So as a teacher of mindfulness, you really don't have any attachment so much to the outcome for the client. Your attachment is for the process of leading to that place where they can discover themselves and come up with their own outcome, right? Now, we want them to be successful. If they're coming in to relax, we want them to be successful at relaxation. But all we can do is lead the horse to water. We can't make them drink, right? But our words can give them such power to lead them as close to that water as we can without dunking their head into it for them. So we want to make sure we're setting them up for success. So when offering these opportunities, see them as teaching moments, as inspirational moments, as perhaps opportunities for you to share your passion. But beyond that, you don't have any control about how it's going to be received. So the practice of mindfulness gets you into that place where you allow yourself to be present with the client and do all that you can to bring them as present as you can, but you have no control over whether they're receiving it wholly or not. That's our practice. That's how we move our clients into that place. But the overall focus of our class today now is I want to talk to you about the structure of a meditation and how we go through it. It's pretty simple and you probably know it already, but before I explain the overall structure, I want you to know that there's so many different ways you can do this, right? So just like in Yoga Nidra, just like in sound, again, you have that induction period where you're bringing them into the present. Then you have them in that space where I call it's the meat of the matter. This is where it's really happening. And then you have the return, right? But that can be moved. So it can, and it depends on how, of course, how much time you have. So a 10-minute meditation is going to look a whole lot different than a 30-minute meditation or a 40-minute meditation or an hour meditation. but they're all basically the same, right? It begins by instructing the client or the class to get as comfortable as they can be, getting them settled in, and using those instructive words to say, now, wherever you are or whatever you're doing, just try to get as comfortable as you can be and relax down into that space. Let them know that whether they're sitting down or lying down, it's up to them and it's up to you how you're leading the class. But you can have some suggestions. I like to sometimes say, especially if I'm working with a group of newbies, people who aren't really um, trained in the practice. A lot of people, when they sit down in meditation, they feel like they have to sit like a statue, right? I can't move. If I move, Coach Bill's going to get mad at me. So I got to sit like a statue, right? So you give them permission to move, right? And a lot of times the suggestion I'll do there is, as you're going through this meditation, if you need to adjust yourself to feel comfortable, go ahead and do so. Maybe not those exact words because that kind of sounds weird. But anyway, however you decide to do that, but give them using permissive words to let them know whatever they need to do. And before you jump into the meditation, just take a moment or two and set the scene. Set them up. Maybe even talk about your intention. Talk about where you're guiding them to without giving them too much information, but set them up for success. I sometimes here will start by saying, as you're settling down into your space, if you feel comfortable, go ahead and close your eyes. And as they close their eyes, before I really start getting into the script, I'll talk about where I'm taking them. So maybe once they close their eyes, I'll say, now this is going to be a loving kindness meditation. We're going to sink into the heart and open ourselves up to the power of love that we carry within, whatever it is. So you've already set them up for success. And then you move into the script. Then so that's where you kind of set the intention. Um, so however you choose to do that, that's where I do it. Sometimes some teachers will start talking about relaxing into your breath and just settling down and just sit with your breath a moment. And once you've said those words, you start talking about the intention or not. Some people don't like to talk about the intention. I think it's important too, because then people, they have something to focus on, right? So of course, we always want to focus on being positive. The wording that we say is so important. And in general, we always want to say, keep things positive. Keep things positive. Don't be focusing on negative responses because, again, we don't want to trigger any uncomfortable feelings unless that's the intention. If we're using a meditation to help somebody release some trauma, then that's different. But overall, we want to keep our suggestions positive and don't mention a whole lot of negatives. A whole lot of negatives. You have to throw some in every now and then, like release the stress of the day or let go of your wandering thoughts. Those are kind of negative, but they're not overall negative. But sometimes we want to even avoid words like stress or discomfort. So think about a difference between a phrase that's saying as you're sitting there breathing, you're releasing stress. So you've mentioned that word stress and the people are focusing on the word stress. But what if you change that and just said, you're feeling more and more relaxed? Isn't it the same thing? But you didn't use that stress word. And sometimes the word stress triggers something. So again, it depends on what the purpose is. But if you envision how things want to work in your script, then you'll determine what words come out. But we don't want people to envision the problem. We want to see them, we want to guide them to the place where they envision the success or whatever it is we're trying to get them to. If we have them looking at the problem briefly, we want to move on quickly. So if we do use the word stress, say, as you're walking on the beach, just think on the next step as it sinks in the sand, you're letting go of the stress and leaving it behind. So you left it behind. It was just there for a moment and you moved forward. Because if you keep using the word stress and stress over and over and over again through the whole meditation, where your attention goes, the energy flows, and you're going to be focused on the stress. So we want to turn the mind to the positive thing. Sometimes in that relaxation, a lot of times in the relaxation for me, I use a body scan. A body scan in of itself is going to help relax somebody because it brings the mind in connection with the body. So a short body scan at the beginning of a meditation can be the most relaxing thing you do. Just feel your body relaxing or move your breath through your body or however you choose to do it. So in the induction space, in that beginning space, use a body scan. Maybe your whole meditation is going to be a body scan, and that just makes it easy. Then it's just one big induction. But overall, a simple body scan at the beginning can be really useful. You could also use a countdown sequence. Now, a countdown method is a real deepener, and it's really used in hypnosis because counting down, if done properly, can truly help somebody go from here to here. So just think about something like a countdown method is, and it depends on how far you want to take them. You can count down from 10 to 1, you can count down to 20 to 1, whatever. But basically in a meditation, I wouldn't go more than 5 because we don't want them to go into a trance, right? But just think about as you're counting down from 5. So I'm going to count down from 5 to 0. And by the time you get to 0, you're going to be so much more relaxed than you are right now. And perhaps every number I say is going to make you feel 10 times more relaxed than you are right now. So follow along with me as I count down from 5, and you feel your whole body relaxing a little bit. To 4, just feeling your breath flowing nice and easy, flowing in and out. 3, just letting your whole body sink down into the surface beneath you. 2, almost there, just feeling so relaxed. And 1, just relaxing into this space and ready to go on this journey. So simple. So easy. Now you could do a countdown method where you have somebody imagine walking down steps. So we're going to step down 5 steps, and every step you take is going to make you feel more and more relaxed. You can have somebody imagine going down in an elevator if you'd like. So push the 1 button on the elevator, and it's going to go down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, however you want to do it. But it really depends on how you want to take and guide your space. So that's a really good way to help people relax. And again, it depends on how deep you want to take them, but it's a really good guide. It's like a barometer for you to pay attention to the energy of the room as you're counting down. They sink down with those numbers and they get more and more comfortable. Then once you get them to that place where they feel relaxed, or you can sense that they're relaxed, and trust me, not everybody's going to be as relaxed as everybody else, but if you're going in that space where you're relaxing people more and more, you'll feel it. Then once you feel comfortable, we call the middle section the journey, where you get into the journey and you take them on this little trip, wherever that might be. And the journey is the time where you take that client by describing the environment you want them to be in. Now, again, this isn't going to be one you use like in a body scan meditation or a breathwork meditation. This is more a visualization type meditation where you have them imagining that place or imagining an experience. So once you've relaxed them enough, the middle of the meditation is going to be where they can connect to their senses and to the environment that you're in, and you want to describe. Be very descriptive, but very imaginative. You don't want to be overly descriptive. So there's a fine line there. You want to create the experience that is both visual and tactile. And tactile means you want them to truly use their imagination. So again, if I have somebody walking through a forest, I'll have them imagine the light around them. Imagine the sun filtering down through the trees or whatever it is you choose to do. Imagine that space and that place and how it would smell, smelling the leaves and the trees and the air. Imagine the temperature of the air, and you could describe it as the temperature's just perfect. Or if you're doing like a walk in the fall, the temperature's cool but not cold. All those little things that you can plant in their mind are those seeds of tactile awareness. And a tactile meditation awakens the 5 senses, or at least some of the senses. You probably won't do a whole lot of taste unless you're doing like a mindful eating workshop or something like that. But in that space, you want to open that space to let them reinforce the experience. Because the more descriptive you are, without being overly descriptive, the more you allow them or give them permission to awaken the sense of smell. As they breathe, they might actually smell the beach if you have them walking on a beach, or they might actually smell the forest or the garden or wherever they are. If you have them listening and you start saying, well, maybe you hear the sound of birds, maybe they'll hear the sound of birds. They'll transform even that music that might be playing in the background to maybe some sound of birds or the wind blowing through the trees. You can have them envision the light again or all the colors around you. Just think about all these different things. And when we get into that place, not only does it help them relax, it allows them to connect to the place even more and more. But don't be too connected to dragging out that space too long. making it too long, then they start to over imagine it and they get stuck. And then eventually they get stuck in a story. And maybe they'll start to imagine that place that they visited and they'll start thinking about what happened that day. And we don't want to let them get stuck in that space. So if we spend too much time describing all the specifics in our guided imagery, then it starts to sound labored, like we're trying too hard, and it becomes overcomplicated. We want to keep it simple. Keep it simple, because the amazing thing about our minds and our clients' minds is it's going to fill in the gaps. So once you set the scene, they're going to fill in the gaps depending on their own experience. And one of the lessons I learned when I first started talking about it, and I know you've heard me do many beach meditations, and I talk about looking back at your footsteps behind you and how they go all the way back to the horizon, right? Well, I had a client at the end of it said, I was with you until you told me to look back and see my footsteps all the way back to the horizon, because I was walking on this little beach that was surrounded by cliffs and it didn't go all the way back to the horizon. So anyway, it threw them off. Not everybody's going to get what you want to say, but you want them to put them in that space. So it's a good idea to give the listener, the client, the opportunity to expand upon your suggestions, to let them visualize in their own way. Give them the freedom to create the imagery in their own way. And don't talk over through the whole guided meditation. Create some space. Think about the space that you're in, or think about the place that you're visiting, and give a pause there. I'm going to talk about pauses in a moment, but we don't want to be overly active, overly talking, because then it starts to make us sound nervous. Again, when I first started leading meditations, I wanted to fill in every moment of that meditation with words. Most of it was a nervous thing because I was afraid I was going to lose the client. But you want to give them that space. And that space can be 10, 20, 30 seconds. That's a long time. I usually go to 10, maybe 20, but that gives them that space where they open themselves up to create what it is they want to be. But remember, you're writing the script, but it's the client's meditation. So give them that space to create what they want to see in their space. So I trust everybody's with me. So once we create a script, if you've been paying attention or in your binder, there should be some scripts, some sample scripts. I'm going to email you some more on either tomorrow or Monday, some other scripts that I have online, and just different versions. I'll send you a chakra script. I'll send you a guided imagery. I'll send you a body scan. I'll send you a loving kindness, maybe a yoga nidra. I'll send you those scripts so you can look through them. So when creating scripts, don't be afraid to be inspired by others. I don't think there are too many meditators. In fact, I don't know anybody who copyrights their meditation, because most of us are being inspired by someone else. So if you've listened to Jon Kabat-Zinn's mountain meditation, you could probably go, if you go on YouTube and look up the mountain meditation, there are probably 100,000 people who have recorded that meditation in different ways. A lake meditation, right? How can you copyright a meditation on a lake? They're all so similar, but they're all different. A beach meditation, walk through the forest, whatever it is, you can be inspired by others. Don't copy it word for word, but listen to it, take notes of it, and let yourself be inspired and lead it the way you want to. So when I write a meditation script, I can't say where I got that inspiration from. So if I lead a mountain meditation, it's going to pull some of those Jon Kabat-Zinn features out of it because I've listened to that thing so many times. So don't be afraid to be inspired by others. Make it yours, but you let yourself be inspired. So don't be afraid to listen to other things. I get inspired by so many other meditation teachers. I get inspired by the students who send me their meditations too. It's like, wow, that was really great. I'm going to use that one. And it's okay. So as you listen to meditations, whether they're mine or whether they're anybody else's, feel free to take it and make it your own. So as I send you scripts, don't feel like you can't use them. Use them. But I trust that you'll use them in your own way. Then once you start writing scripts, the most important thing you can do is record them. Record them and listen back to them, because it might sound perfect to you on paper, but until you hear it, you're not going to know how perfect it sounds. And until you start practicing it, you're not going to know how it feels. So you want to record it and listen to it yourself. Where I really got better at my practice was just that, listening to myself, listening to myself, thinking about the people who make me feel good when I meditate, and trying to duplicate that a little bit, understanding the flow, understanding the pause, understanding the breath. So, beyond writing a meditation script is the performing of it. You have to see yourself as artists, right? So there's a difference between the artist who writes a script and the artist who performs the script, right? Every movie you've ever seen, the actor doesn't write the screenplay, right? It's written by somebody else. But that actor takes that script and makes it their own, hopefully, and uses their own pausing, their own phraseology, their own intention, their own energy. So that's what you're doing. Once you take that meditation and you feel, I want to do this, how do I perform it? And then the other thing is to remember, you're not going to have the script right in front of you like this because you're going to be like that actor. You have to memorize it and set it aside, or whatever it is you do. Now, when I lead a meditation, most of the time I have a script with me. I've learned over the years that it's really like my security blanket, right? It's always there. I very rarely use it unless I'm in the midst of a really busy day and I'm having trouble focusing, then I'll have it there to inspire me. I'll just keep track of it in case I get lost, right? And I have gotten lost in the midst of meditations before, but it's very rare that I'll sit there and read the whole script. It's just there for me as my security blanket. When I do a meditation in a room, it's generally sitting on my side, and I very rarely even pick it up, but it just makes me feel good knowing it's there because I've been in those moments. Because if you've ever watched me, and because I don't do that many in-person meditation these days, I'm generally sitting there with my eyes closed as I'm leading a meditation. I'm generally in that space. And every now and then I get so deep in that space that I'll pause for a moment and I might get lost. I'm like, oh shoot, where was I? What was I doing? And I can stumble and fake it for a moment, but if I'm like, oh, cool, okay, then I have it here. Oh yeah, there I am. And then I can do that. It's very rare that I've had to do that, but it has happened a couple of times. And yeah, I don't know. So as you get better and better and better, you'll use these less and less and less. But don't be afraid to have a script with you. Um, Most of you have taken class with Holly. Holly did the Yoga Nidra training with me last time. Holly always has a book in front of her. That's just how she is, and she's comfortable with that. So don't be afraid to do that. I had a student once last year. Um, she said, I really love your workshops, but I want to be able to do them without having uh, paper in front of me. She said, you always have a paper in front of you when you're doing your workshops. I was like, well, because I have so much information that I need to make sure I'm staying on track because I have this tendency to get stuck in a topic and I'll talk about that topic for a long time and then I'll be like, oh shoot, I didn't get to everything I wanted to do. So these just help me go through that. So don't see that as a weakness. See that as your inspiration to keep moving forward. But see there, I got distracted. I'm supposed to be talking about tips for audio recording scripts, right? So audio recording your scripts. So one program that I recommend is Audacity. Audacity is free. It's available for Mac or PC, and it's Audacity. And it's only good for audio recordings. It doesn't do video. What I've gotten comfortable with when I do video recordings is I use Zoom. And sometimes I'll use Zoom and just set up a Zoom meeting for myself. And I'm the host of it. And Zoom can record your video just as well as anybody else. So if you want to do video, I use Zoom. If you want to just do audio, I use Audacity. And the reason I use Audacity is it's very user friendly and it's easy to edit. The problem with Zoom is I can't edit it. You get what you get, right? Because it's an MP4 that when you save it, it saves it as an MP4. The beautiful thing about Zoom though, it also saves an audio file, which you can copy over to Audacity and you can edit it. So I'm going to let this person talk about how to use Audacity. Just because it's really a great program, it's the one that I recommend most. And this video is going to go right now. I hope.
Today I'm going to share with you how you can record your own guided audio meditations or other audio recordings. Whether you want to share them with clients and friends or even create your own new products, you're going to be able to do this on your own relatively cheaply and pretty easily. I want to share with you one of my favorite tools.
Did I mess it up?
It's called Audacity, and it's a free audio editing and recording software that you can use either for PCs or Macs. Now, I know it can look a little intimidating, and there's a lot of extra features that you can certainly go down a rabbit hole, but I'm going to show you some of the basics to get you started. I've opened up Audacity, and there's a few things I'd like you to check before we get started. First, I want you to make sure that your project rate is up to 44,100 kilohertz. This is the standard audio rate. Next, you'll want to determine if you want to record in mono or in stereo. Mono is one channel. It means that it is one file for you to edit. If you record in stereo, you'll get two channels, and that will allow you to modify the left and right inputs. I honestly pretty much record in mono. It's easier to manage and to manipulate. You might want to use stereo if you're working with music files and you really want to modulate the left and right channels. Next, we'll want to test our levels, and that'll determine if our microphone input is too low or too high. If it's too low, it's going to be too soft to hear, and if it's too high, you're going to hear distortion. First, I'll want to create a test recording. To start recording, I'll click the Start Record button here, and you can see that my audio recording is being tracked. Next, I'll want to check my levels. Your levels are located up here in the top bar. Ideally, you want to keep your red bar as big as you can get it without pushing this blue bar to 0. The blue line will stay at the loudest point of your whole session. So if I do something like laugh, ha 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 ha, you'll see that the blue bar gets pushed to the right. To modify this volume, you can use the microphone slider here to adjust the settings. If you're testing and it pushes all the way to the right, you'll want to adjust this input slider for the microphone down to the left. When you talk and laugh, if the sound never pushes beyond this -24 value, go ahead and turn the mic volume up. Each time you make an adjustment, you'll want to test again to make sure you're happy with the changes. Once you've got your levels set, you're ready to record. I've gone ahead and created a test recording that we can use to play with to edit. The first thing I like to do is to normalize the audio. Normalizing applies constant gain to the recording to bring the amplitude up to a norm. To do this, you're going to go to Effect, Normalize, and you'll leave the default settings. Go ahead and click OK. You'll notice that the waveforms get larger. This is going to amp up the sound of the audio. You can always test it by clicking play. Next, I like to edit out any of the extra ums and bits that I know are already in the file. In this case, I know I've got a couple of extra clicks. You can listen to it here. No crime. And bad mistakes, I've made a few. Those two clicks right here, I know I want to get rid of. This is also why I like to work on a big monitor. I can visually see where the clicks are. If I want to enlarge the view, I can go to View and Zoom in, and it'll help me see exactly where I need to cut. I'm going to put my cursor where I want to start the edit, then I'll drag it over the waveform, and then I'll click Delete to remove it from the file. Now I can click play, and the click is gone. You can do this for anything like ums or extra sounds that you want to remove from your file. I'll often leave a little bit of extra room at the beginning and the end, and you may want to clip that as well. Next, I'll want to remove some background sounds. Now, I did this test with my HVAC running in the background, and you can hear it when I play the audio. It's pretty faint, but you can hear just a little bit of a hum in the background. To fix this, I'll select that front bit of audio. I'll click Effect and then Noise Removal. I'll click Get Noise Profile. Then I'll select the entire audio file by clicking Command A and going back to Effect and Noise Removal. For now, I'm going to leave the default settings and click OK. You'll notice a slight change to the waveforms, and then when I play the audio file again, that extra sound is totally gone. This is great if you've got maybe a constant hum in the background, like an air conditioner or an HVAC unit. If you'd like to do more to your audio file, feel free to play with the effects to modify the recording. You can do things like bass boost to add richness to your voice, and you can also modify the EQ settings to even out the highs and lows in your voice. Now, keep in mind, some of these effects are best used in limited amounts. Now you should be able to record and do simple edits to your audio file.
So simple. It's so simple that it's complicated. It's not that complicated, but if you use a program like Audacity, the beautiful thing about it is on YouTube now there are hundreds or thousands of people that'll help you get through it, tutorials or people who use it. Um, I use Audacity again because it's free. It's easily usable because you can go in and edit it. You can take out some of those spaces, some of the clicks, some of the ums and the ahs and the other stuff that gets thrown in there, and it saves so simply. Basically, once you record it, then you can simply listen back to it over and over and over again and make it better and better. But the reason I put that in here is because, again, it's such an important part of us being comfortable with our script writing is to record them. Once we feel like we have what we want, then we record it and then we perfect it. So basically, going through this again from the very beginning, as we reflect, we get in the space that we want to be in, that we want to write our meditation. We set ourselves up by connecting to the inspiration, but connecting to the energy of what it is we want to put out there. We begin by thinking about the journey that we want people to go on. Again, if it's a guided meditation, that's a simple guided meditation like body scan or breath work. You don't have a whole lot of symbolism in the journey. You're just taking them through the process of connecting to the body or the breath or something like that. But if you're taking them on a journey that's connected to a visualization, just remember there's a whole lot of symbolism involved. And it's taking your client on the journey by describing the environment, by connecting to the symbolism that might be in there, um, leading the listener to a deeper and deeper state of relaxation is the first goal. Because once you're in that relaxed, deep state, you have the power to envision more things without all the busyness of the mind getting in the way, leading a client through a series of experiences that bring harmony to the body, mind, and soul. We know the power of visualization can do that. Whether you're in a classroom, whether you're in a meditation room, whether you're in an office or whatever it is, once you guide the client to close their eyes and turn their attention to their imagination, you can connect to the symbolism of the journey so deeply, leading through those experiences of bringing harmony, connecting to the intended purpose of the meditation through your words, through your phrases, and don't be afraid to use those periods of silence to let them get there. Once you've led them through that process of relaxation and connected the words that you're saying to the symbolism of the journey, to the intended purpose of the meditation, the listener is going to be in this relaxed meditative state of awareness. And if they're with you, it's almost like a dreamlike state where you're hearing the words that are being said, but you're envisioning them in your own way. The deeper levels of the mind come into play. You disconnect from that overthinking ego mind and you connect to that subconscious part of the mind that can envision so many things. So not only is the listener going to be interpreting the literal meaning of your words, they're going to be influenced by the subconscious level of the symbolic meaning of those words. There's so much there. And with that comes so much responsibility. So if you just envision having somebody walking down the beach and you talk about how you feel your feet sinking down in the sand and every step you take is connecting you with the earth, there's so much symbolism there. Thinking about every little step that you're taking. You can do that in so many ways. As you're walking through the forest and the leaves in the fall are falling from the trees and you pause and watch one of the leaves start to drift down and it slowly tumbles and sways back and forth, not in any hurry, just taking this journey until it settles all the way down and connects with the earth. So much symbolism there. So in this deep state of relaxation, you can envision that in such a powerful way, in the way it feels connected to the client. that symbolic guided imagery can be so powerful. Um, so some of the symbols that we can use, like I was just saying, water. Water is one of the most useful tools that we can use in meditation, because whether that water is flowing or standing still, whether it's a body of water that's big or whether it's a pond or a puddle, whether it's the ocean flowing on the waves or whether it's a waterfall falling from above, whether it's a stream coming from someplace else or a spring coming up from the water or rain falling from the sky, there's so many different ways you can use the symbolism of water. Again, just imagine just using these questions. I love to use that journey where we can let the client imagine. Imagine you've stepped out of a forest and suddenly before you is a body of water. And your body of water may be big or small. It may be muddy or clear. It may be still or choppy. But just begin to envision that water. Is it clear? Is it peaceful? Is it reflective? Just think about all the different ways you can talk just about a body of water that can connect to the symbolism, that can connect you to the intention of your meditation. So just think about the symbolic picture you'd like to paint in the mind of the listener. Just think about what images you can use that can heal. Think about images you can use that can bring a bit of peace of mind. Think about the images or the objects you can use that can bring a bit of clarity or peacefulness or freedom or love. So many different ways you can inspire people by looking at the sky. You can think about the blue sky. You could think about clouds floating across the sky. You could think about the moon or the stars or the sun. And each and every one of those symbols can connect to the intention of your meditation. So consider the purpose of your meditation and introduce the symbols that represent that purpose. And those symbols will give deeper meaning to the journey and they'll inspire you. Again, water, the sky, the clouds, forests, the beach, the air, whatever you choose to do. In that space of a guided meditation, that the symbolism can be such a great, powerful tool for relaxation, for healing, for personal development, for inspiration, or whatever it is that you choose to connect that symbolism to, it can be so powerful. So when we guide the listener to walk down that place, walk on that beach, walk through that forest, it's almost like we're opening a doorway of discovery. And again, we don't want to leave too much blank space because we know that a lot of people are going to connect that place to a story. They might imagine that beach and the time that they were there with somebody. And if they stay there too long thinking about the person that they're with, all of a sudden they've left that connection to the meditation and they're thinking about that person. Now, maybe that's okay, but generally we want it to be self-centered. So we can use that illustration, that imagery. A lot of times we use imagery that's not so specific. We can think about imagery like color. As you relax somebody down and they've gone through the process of relaxing their body and their mind, maybe you can tie their attention back to their breath and just think about that breath flowing in and out. And imagine that breath is like a color, or imagine the color of your breath, or imagine you're breathing in a light and you can send that light through your body, or you can send that color through your body. Whatever it is, you can connect that color or that light to whatever intention of your meditation is. If it's a healing light, describe it as a healing light. If it's a calming light, you can describe it as a color like green or blue or something very calming. Perhaps you can introduce an animal like a bird or whatever. There's so many different ways you can add symbolism to the journey. And that's what's really important, is how you're going to inspire people to get into that place. After you've gone through the journey, we have to do the return, right? We have to get to that place where we bring them back. So just trust. Just trust that you've led your client to a place where they're very, very relaxed and they've entered that deep state of relaxation. We need to bring them back to a regular, normal, waking consciousness. But we don't want to do it too fast. We don't want to jolt them up. We want to do it gradually. Now, won't take as long as it took at the beginning to lead them to that place of relaxation, but we want to count them back up if you've counted them down. You want to move them back up or lift them with energy in whatever ways you can. We want the listener to come back from that, come back to that place where they started, but maybe you can use phrases like come back to this place that you never left, or come back to the way, to the space that you're in, or whatever it is that gets you there. Have them return from the journey to the place where it all began, but maybe you can describe it as you may feel differently. You might even, a lot of times I'll use it right before we open your eyes now. Just think about how you feel now compared to how you felt when we began and notice the difference. We just want to walk the listener back through all the conditions that we took them through. Again, if we took them on a countdown, we want to count back up. If we had them walk down a beach, maybe we want to walk back on that beach to where we began. Whatever it is you choose to use, but once we return to that starting point, we want to slowly bring their awareness into the world around them and remind them to become aware of their physical body, become aware of the surroundings that they're in, and give them time to come back. Come back to earth, come back to wherever they were, and tell them to gently open their eyes if they were closed, and whatever it is you choose to do there. But make sure you describe a journey back. Don't end it. Don't leave them out there floating in space or walking through that forest or walking on the beach. Bring them back. And that's part of the symbolism of the journey. So as I describe a meditation, so many times it's almost like you're journeying down into the valley of the mind. So you're starting high and you're coming down and then you come back up. Or it's the energy level. You're starting filled with energy, you relax down into a peaceful place, and you want them to come back. Not as far back, maybe, but you want them to come back. So, there you go. That's the basic journey of a meditation script. But there's so much more to it. So many different common errors that we could stumble across is that without practicing a meditation, we can get stuck. We can get stuck in a space that we don't want to be in. So the script might sound okay on paper, but once you start reading it aloud, you get stumbled up. You feel like maybe they're holding their breath too long or whatever it is. Beginning meditative teachers get stuck in that space where they describe a little bit too much. Be wary of your sentence length, because if you think about how you're listening to a meditation compared to how you're listening to somebody teach, it's so different. If you pay attention to how I lead a meditation, or how maybe your favorite person leads a meditation, you start to understand that their phrases flow with the breath, because we want the client to start to come and start to align their breath with the phrases that we're leading. And it's important to remember that as we think about our breath and we align our phrases with our breath, somewhere in the breath there's a pause. Somewhere in the breath there's a moment of stillness. So as we start to slow down, as we're guiding our meditation, we're starting to slow down the breath. We're starting to slow down the rhythm of the heartbeat. We're starting to slow down the overthinking mind. So the words do have such meaning. The intentions really do come out in the words, but the relaxation and the slowing down comes in the phrasing and in the way you speak and in the pauses that you answer in there. So be wary of your sentence length. When we're guiding a meditation, the listener's in a relaxed state of mind and they're going to follow the imagery better if you feed it to them in small pieces. If you give it to them in little bits and pieces, instead of becoming overly descriptive or talking for too long without a pause, we open up that space. Because if we talk too quickly or we talk too long or we have this sentence like this, a sentence that might go on for way too long and the person that's leading it isn't giving a pause for a breath and suddenly you're holding your breath because this person's talking too much, that's not comfortable. That's not relaxing. In fact, it causes a bit of mental congestion that's going to cause the client to think about something else. It's too much to keep up with. It's too much to digest. So give them descriptive sentences. allow for a moment for them to form the visualization in their own way, and then move on to the next sentence, taking your time, letting yourself breathe, letting yourself breathe, making sure you understand. So many times when I listen to a meditative teacher lead us meditation, they overly describe the breath. So when you think about a breath, guidance with the breath, I could be sitting here talking about, now as you begin to relax, you take a nice deep in breath and just hold it for a moment and then let it out nice and slow and easy. That's easy. But sometimes a teacher will say, now when you feel that, when you take in that deep breath, just feel that energy lift you up, and holding that energy and feeling that power. And then as you feel yourself filled with that energy, don't you just feel so good? And now if you'd like, go ahead and let your breath out nice and slow and easy. That's too long. You could have put in 3 breaths in that space that the person is holding their breath, because you're directing them to be holding that breath. As you breathe in nice and deep, you just breathe and feel the comfort of that breath and that energy flowing through you. It's too much. You want to think about the phrasing in your breath. Think about how peaceful it should flow. So just be sure that everybody breathes a little differently too. If you're leading a full class or a bunch of people in a class, there might be somebody who struggles with their breath a little bit, or there might be somebody who breathes nice and slow and easy. So how are you going to find balance if you're overly describing the breath? Now, again, if it's a breath work meditation, that's completely different. But if it's a relaxation meditation, I say be more permissive. There are some teachers who like to count. Now, for the next few minutes, when you breathe in, count to 3, and as you breathe out, count to 4. So breathing in, 1, 2, 3, and breathing out, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's useful. But some teachers will say, now I want you to breathe in the count of 1, 2, 3, and then as you start to breathe like you want to breathe out, 1, 2, 3, 4. That was too long. It's not a natural flow. So if you're going to do that, make sure the breath is actually going to follow your breath. Follow a comfortable pattern of your breathing. And that comes with practice. That comes with repetition. That comes with recording. Because when you record it, you want to sit in that meditation yourself. And as you're listening, you could hear yourself like, oh my gosh, I'm holding my breath for way too long. I can't hold my breath that long. And if you can't hold your breath that long, neither can anybody else. So make sure you're doing it in small, useful, digestive pieces. That makes such a huge difference. Whenever I listen to a meditation that is very wordy and very long and doesn't have a lot of pauses in it, it's kind of exhausting. It's not as relaxing. So that's really great when you're using relaxation meditation. If you're doing an energetic meditation, that's different. You can talk with a faster voice. You can be more expressive. If it's a motivational morning meditation and you're talking about feeling the joy and gratitude of the morning, well, you don't want to be so lazily flowing through. You want to be more energetic. You wouldn't have as many pauses, perhaps. That's up to you, though. But basically, you want it to flow nice and easy. You want to follow that gentle flow. Then, the next layer of a meditation, if you're recording it or if you're doing a meditation in a room, people always ask me, what about music? Where do you put the music in it? And I always have music in the background because it can make or break a guided meditation. Again, unless it's a breathwork meditation or a body scan meditation, a general guided meditation should have some music behind it because it fills in that space. It offers that maybe white noise. Instead of a distraction like a fire truck or something going by outside, the client's mind is tuned into the gentle flow of music. If you're recording, it really can be useful to have music in the background to overcome the hum of an air condition or something going on outside of your room because the microphone will pick it up. Music not only can add beauty to a meditation, it helps to relax the listener and provides a soothing backdrop to the spoken word. It can make the meditation more rich. It also adds an emotional depth that can reinforce the overall mood of the journey if it's the right music or if it's the right soundtrack or whatever it is. We don't want to put a beat, the soundtrack that has somebody on the beach when you're walking through a forest, or you don't want to have the soundtrack of a forest while you're walking on the beach, but we want to make sure it's the right thing. So if our aim is to produce a guided meditation that we want to send out to a client, or if we're performing in a space that we're allowed to play music in, we want to keep in mind that the music in the space is the first thing people are going to notice. So it can help you set the scene for your meditation. It can help you create the space. So if you take the time to create a playlist or have I use Pandora. I use a business Pandora account. And the beautiful thing about Pandora or some of the other programs like Amazon Music or iTunes, when you start developing your own stations, it starts putting other music in there that aligns with the music that you're already doing. So I have one that I call meditation and Reiki music. I don't know. I think that's it. Anyway, and I don't know why I put Reiki in there. Someday I just did, but and it's just a very relaxing overall flow. But I have to be careful because sometimes it'll throw in a beach sound when I'm walking through a forest. So I have to be there. So basically, I always have a prepared. But if it's something that I'm intentionally focusing on, I generally will use a playlist that I've devised. A playlist that I've set up on Amazon Music is what I use. And so I'll pick the songs that that align with the intention of that meditation, and I'll put those in there and I'll have it filled out. If you take the time, you can do a 20-minute playlist, a 30-minute playlist, a 10-minute playlist, and you can be very successful that way. And it adds a richness. It's almost like the icing on a cake to a meditation. Because I've heard meditations that don't have any music in the background and they don't quite have the same oomph. So where do you get your music from? Well, it depends on two things. If you're monetizing your recording, so if you're planning to sell it, then you can't use just general music because it's copyrighted. But you could go to, oh shoot, there's a couple links I'll send everybody. In addition to the scripts I'll send you guys later, some links to um, some royalty-free music sites, and they'll allow you to use their music. I still use Pandora when I put my YouTube videos up, YouTube meditations up. And the interesting thing, when I upload it to YouTube, YouTube puts it through this filter that says there's something in your video that's copyrighted. That doesn't mean they won't allow it to go through. It just means I can't monetize it. So I can't turn around and sell it. Now I can go through this program. There's a program on YouTube where um, I can share the royalties. So if I am monetizing my YouTube, then the person who has the copyright on that song in my video is going to get a percentage of whatever I make on that video. But I don't monetize my YouTube, so I'm not worried about it right now. I can just use it. And it puts a copyright note on that YouTube. So if somebody goes in and digs into it, it says this has been copyright marked and they have permission to use it. It's only happened once, but they've kicked one of my videos back saying I'm not allowed to use that. So generally, I don't stumble across that very often. If you're using music in a class, or if I'm using it with a client one-on-one, that doesn't come into play because I can use a business YouTube, or I can use a business Pandora, or I can use my Amazon or iTunes account and play music in the background. There's no royalty attached to that. So with that in mind, just you decide how you want to use music. But understand you've put your heart and soul into this practice. You've learned all that you need to do. You want to take your client to that place, and this script is yours. So put some real thought into the music that you want to accompany that, and make sure you're coming from the heart and you're not putting in something that's going to be distracting, right? So then the last thing, the biggest thing I want to talk about is inspiration. Where do you get the inspiration from? So many times you can get your inspiration from things that you encounter, a sunset, a sunrise, walking on the beach, conversations that you have. You can get your inspiration from other authors, other people who write scripts. You can get your inspiration from so many different places. One of the places I get my inspiration from often are affirmations. Now, in that booklet I sent you, or in the book you have, the binder you have, I've got about 10 pages of different affirmations that over the years I've found useful. And The affirmations can just, they start out as an affirmation, and I can turn that one affirmation into a whole meditation script. And it's pretty fun to do. One of my first ones that I always used was Louise Hay. I use Louise Hay all the time. In fact, I have books of hers that sometimes if I'm really stuck, I'll just pull out her book and I'll open to a page and say, look at this one. And I'll just think about that for a minute and say, how can I make that into a meditation? It's kind of fun. Thich Nhat Hanh, I can read some of his books and it leads me to I mean, heck, just think about the miracle of mindfulness. How many meditations could I lead about the pebble dropping into the lake or, you know, peeling the orange or washing the dishes? Those could be really great meditations. So as you're going through this practice and you start digging into it more and more and more, open your mind and look for things that might inspire you. Take note of them, then practice writing from it. Take note of it. One of my favorite ones that I did not too long ago, I had a cardiologist appointment. I get one every about 3 years now at this age. So I'm sitting in the cardiologist's office and I'm looking around me at all these older men, right? And everybody's like in their own little space and everybody's staring at their phones. And something just popped into my head. It's like, wow, this is weird. Like nobody's interacting. Nobody's even acknowledging that there's somebody else here. And um, and then that song, you've heard it, The Sound of Silence popped into my head. You know, it's a Simon and Garfunkel song, right? And I started thinking about that, like, oh wow, I could write a script about, you know, the sound of silence is really overwhelming in this space. So I didn't have anything to write on, except I had this, my doctor gave me the directions to the cardiologist's office. So I had that in my pocket and I pulled it out and I started writing, and it's just like as many ways as I could write on that little piece of paper because I was sitting there for 20 minutes because they're never on time, right, at the doctor's office. So I wrote a whole script on this little cardiologist map. As I'm sitting in the waiting room, waiting for a doctor appointment, I got inspired because I opened myself up to find all these different places that I could be inspired. Um, that's what this is all about. That's where you can really create some of the most amazing things. If you're looking for the opportunities to be inspired to write a meditation or to discover, I think my whole life I've been a student in human behavior, right? Even before I got into this practice a couple dozen years ago, um, uh, even in the restaurant industry when I was in that business, I like to watch how people do things, watch their interaction, watch how they carry themselves, watch how they respond to different things. And so I use that as my inspiration when I see people walking on the beach or I see people having dinner, or I see people communicating with each other. I can write meditation scripts on how people drive. It's just so weird. So you just get in this practice of always looking for ways to be inspired and understand there's always something to to study. And yeah. So as we talk about writing meditation scripts, don't put too much pressure on yourself to write the perfect script. Just get the inspiration written down. Understand the structure, understand your intention, and then start writing it and then start recording it. Now, most people, when they get into this practice, they wait until they're ready. I'm waiting till I have all the information. I'm waiting till I think I'm going to be perfect. Well, if you're waiting for that to happen, it ain't ever going to happen because I don't think I have all the information and I don't think what I do is perfect, but I put it out there and I put it out there and I put it out there. And as you keep putting it out there, you're going to start getting better and better and better at it. It's all about being comfortable. Um, I have I have a ton of recorded meditations. I don't know. Mike says I have thousands. I don't know. He has every one I've ever recorded somewhere in some file somewhere. But he keeps sending me some old ones, and when I listen to my older ones that I recorded about a dozen years ago, they're so different. I was speaking in a different way. My phrasing was completely wrong. Not wrong. I shouldn't say wrong. Was different. They weren't bad. It's just different because I keep drilling down into it. I keep drilling down into it, and that came from me finally pulling the trigger and saying, "I'm ready. I'm ready to practice." And once I start listening to myself, it's like, well, I'm not overly judgy, but I'm discerning. What did I like about that? What could I do differently? How could I make it sound more smooth? And I can tell you, when I listen to my meditations from 10 years ago or 5 years ago, they're different than they are now. And I'm sure in 5 years they're going to be different. right now I'm kind of in this space where I think I put a lot of people to sleep because I like use long phrases and I let my voice go real deep. And I got inspired by this video that it's in one of the workshops that we do where the guy talks about all the different tools in your register in the way you speak, right? And he said, you want your voice to sound like hot chocolate. And I just keep thinking about that. I want my voice to sound like hot chocolate. I think it does most of the time, but a lot of times I'm like, oh my gosh, that chocolate is way too sweet. Anyway, so whatever works for you, just keep practicing and keep practicing. That video on the way you speak, I'm going to send that to you guys along with all the other stuff that I'm saying I'm going to send you at some day, probably tomorrow. I'll send that to you. It talks about the timbre, the register, the way you speak, and how we should focus on speaking deeper. Instead of speaking up here, we want to speak maybe here or even here. When there's a richness to your voice, people connect to it. And it just comes from practice. I think when I first started speaking, I used to speak, and when I teach a workshop, I think I speak more up here, but when I lead a meditation, I speak down here. It's just a difference in how I'm projecting myself. It's a difference in how I'm holding myself. If I'm all slumped over, I'm not going to speak as nicely as when I'm sitting up. So script writing isn't just about putting words on a paper. It's about connecting yourself to the energy. It's connecting yourself to the intention. It's about seeing the journey and guiding your clients on that journey. And the only way you're going to be successful at it is practice. Practice, practice, practice. Listen to yourself, then share it, and then share it some more. Ask some people that you trust to listen to it to give you feedback on it. Don't send it to that person that's going to say, oh my gosh, that's the greatest thing I ever heard. Well, you can send it to them just to make yourself feel good, but send it to some people that you trust their opinion. Send it to me. I love getting meditations because I can listen to meditations all day. Well, I don't have time to do it all day, but I can listen to meditations and I loved giving feedback on it. It's going to be positive feedback. I'm not going to say that's the worst thing I've ever heard, even if it is, but I'll give you positive feedback and tell you what you could do differently. Guide you to that place where you're going to be successful. Because my goal with every class I teach is to connect people to that positive inspiration that they have to be successful, of sharing this journey, sharing the practice. Because the people you connect with are different than the people I connect with, but the more people we connect with, the more people connect with this journey. And that's how we've changed the world. So, rewinding to the very beginning. I know there's a lot of information there, and I probably talked a little fast in some parts of it. I recorded this, so I'm going to send it to you guys later. Actually, I have another recording of this class that I did about a month and a half ago, and I'll probably send you that one because I was in a different place, and I think that one might sound different. So I'll send you that one so you can compare the two. You might get some different information from that one, because every time I lead a class, every time I teach a meditation, it's different. So it might be good to have a different perspective. Just trust. Trust that because you want to do it, you can do it. Trust yourself. Because you feel inspired, you felt inspired enough to take this course, to learn how to do this, you have what it takes to do it. You just have to start practicing. Again, I'm going to send you a lot of the tools that you can use. You already have it in your binder, but I'm going to send you some more. I'm going to send you plenty of scripts that you can read and be inspired by. I'll send you some video clips of some other teachers who you can listen to their meditations that could be very useful. So be on the lookout for that stuff to come in on Monday. I promise you I'll have it done by Monday, and I'll get it to you. That way this course isn't just right now, it's going to be continued into Monday. Then as you get into this practice more and more, just please, whatever you do, listen to yourself, record yourself, look for inspiration, and share. Share, share, share. The more people you share this with, the better. That's what it's all about. Let yourself be a sharer. Be a giver. That's my story. All right, so here we are. Anybody have any questions? Oh, everybody's muted. You can unmute yourself.
I have a question, Bill, in regards like how we start the meditation, then we'll bring them down, and then we'll bring them up.
Mhm.
Well, how much length should it be within each step?
Well, it
Because
really
that depends on the time that we have for the meditation? Do we stay like, say it's 30 minutes, we stay 10 minutes
Yeah.
from the high coming down, and 10 minutes down, and then 10 minutes back up? Is that
Basically, there's so many moving parts when it comes to this, because if you're leading a meditation for a group of people that are experienced, you're going to be able to get them down a lot quicker than you will for a group of new people. But let's just say you're teaching a class that has a variety, some people who have experience before and some people who haven't. You kind of want to be general, right? So generally, the beginning, the relaxation part is probably going to be the longest part, because we're taking them from whatever's going on in their life to a place of relaxation. So let's just say it's a 30-minute meditation. I would probably say that relaxation part is going to take 12 or 13 or maybe even 15 minutes of that meditation. And then the journey part could take 10 and then 5-minute return. Does that add up? Did that add up? 14,
Yeah.
10, that's 24. Yeah. So the journeys, the return can be quick. It can be 2 or 3 minutes, right? Because it really is, coming back to your breath, coming back to the space you're in and carrying this forward with you in the day. That could be short. It could even be 2 minutes. The biggest part is going to be that getting them connected and getting them into that place of connecting to that journey,
Okay.
right?
makes sense?
It does. You could easily say, if it's a 20-minute meditation, take 10 minutes for the relaxation, 7 minutes for the journey, and a couple minutes for the return. Again, that's generalization, and it's generalizing and, look at a yoga nidra. Look at a yoga nidra that you're doing for 45 minutes. How much of that yoga nidra is leading you to that place of bliss? Almost all of it, right? Because you only go into the bliss state for just a little bit, because if you leave them there too long, they're going to fall asleep. And then you have the return that's a little bit on the end. So it's almost the same. So it's generally looking at that pattern of going down into the valley and coming back. But the valley coming back is going to be a much steeper cliff than the slow valley that you get down into, right? Everybody's different and every class is different. It's easier to do these things in person because we're all intuitive, right? We can feel the energy of the room around us, right? But when you're recording them, it's more difficult. So that's where you just have to decide what works for you, and then just trust whatever you put out is going to work. But most of the meditations I record are 30 minutes, and I spend 12 or 13 or 14 minutes relaxing, and then I spend about 10 minutes in that space of inspiration, and then a little bit on the return. Does that add up? I guess so.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Overall, that's that. What else?
That was about it for me.
Okay.
I just
Anybody else
want
have
to
anything?
practice it now. I need to put it in
Yeah.
use.
That's all
Immediate.
you just get out there and start practicing it, putting it out there.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else got anything? Are you ready for it? Let's go do it, right? So, yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys joining me today, and I look forward to hearing your